Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and privilege to be part of this very interesting and exciting evening. Yesterday morning I was arrived and I met the South African regulators here. I met a few banks, a few television channels. Some of the interesting and exciting questions which was put to me is what I'm going to say across to you, and I'll be doing the session by answering all these question and answers. Today morning there was a very interesting set of questions on A&M. They asked about the global economy, and again, is financial crisis is over? Is there re-regulation which is not business friendly? That's another question which is put by another newspaper today. Is universal standards have been established to have sustainable world? That's another question. What is the purpose of Gulf Bank being here? How we can synergize the relationship between Arab and Africa in substance. What's the purpose of Doha Bank rep-off is here? What's their future plan? Is the financial market is really a gambling ground? That was a question put by newsprint today. These set of extraordinary questions was thought-provoking for me, to say the least. And let me start. The world is, after 6 years of financial crisis, still reeling a depression. Financial economies are converting as real. Real economies are redefining the scope and performance. Communism has changed. Capitalism is altering its form and substance. Mixed economies are, again, setting the new world order. Extraordinary set of transformation. G7 has become G8. G8 has become G20. World at large is inclusive. One world, single enterprise. Financial inclusion has been the story to bring in social development. Unless you study universal standard in terms of accounting, valuation, securitization, the world at large cannot see the financial stability. Eradication of extreme poverty, gender equality, bringing universal health care, ensuring universal education, bringing full-scale environment sustainability to fix the global warming and climate change are all imperatives. To achieve this, we need global partnership. We need to bring in together opportunities to forge alliances, and that kind of combination is evolving. The world is becoming a better place. Financial crisis has become an important opportunity for us to recognize the world is becoming more ethical and modern. What has changed is the liquidity. It's not confined to Lehman Brothers or Bear Stearns. Extraordinary set of convergence in global economics and politics is evolving. We recognize what has happened is just a fix to the liquidity. Liquidity crisis moved into a funding crisis. Funding crisis moved into a solvency crisis. As we speak, Greece is as an issue. As a design, the monetary policy is centralized. As a design, fiscal policy is decentralized in Europe. Possibly by birth, it's a deformity. If you look at the changing dynamics in the United States, sustainability is not visible. Global growth, even if you look at the April spring meetings, extraordinary set of revolution. Global growth is at stake, 3.3 to 3.5%. I've got excellent regulators sitting here. He will endorse advanced economies are grossly underperforming, between 2.2 to 2.4%. And again, if you look at within the advanced economy space, America, after open market operations, trillions of dollars printed as money supplies, quantitative easing QE1, QE2, QE3, now contemplating options to see whether interest rate hike is possible. The fact is, the cumulative conditions which needs to be fulfilled It is the growth, absolutely uneven. If you look at the last statistics, it is even contraction. It's absolutely volatile in substance as far as overall economic momentum is concerned. Inflation yet to be fixed. Housing market is recovering. Asset price inflation is on. That's the reality. Sustainability is still sought after. It's not visible. When you look at Europe, as I mentioned, extraordinary set of convergence required between politics and economics. Unless you have fiscal union, unless you have banking union in substance, unless you bring in fiscal union and monetary union alignment in substance, you will not be in a position to create gross welfare. Austerity and value creations are mutually exclusive. That's what precisely we're witnessing in Greece. If you look at the changing dynamics in the emerging market, which are instrumental in producing over 60% of the global growth, China is slowing down. You have shadow banking. You have housing market bubbles, and we have seen China is going to score less than 7%. India, as a functional democracy, is resetting its position. Extraordinary opportunity to redefine political stability, and market liberalization has been showcased. The intention of the government is revealed. Again, politics and economics have to converge. The market liberalization, whether defense or insurance or healthcare or real estate, has been effective to promote bilateral investments. It remains to be seen. Sustainability will provide. Extraordinary set of political and economic convergence is required to maintain the momentum, making sure rapid acceleration takes place. In the midst, if you look at the advanced economies like Japan, technically trying to pull it out of recession by printing money. Trillions of yens have been pumped as an open market operations. If America can print money, European Central Bank can print money, Bank of England can print money, Japan can print money. Currency war was created to create trade war. Export-driven economies have realized they have to weaken the currency to push the exports. That's precisely is happening. Japan, again, the capital market is recovering, and we have seen the glimpses of pulling out of recession. In the midst, the Gulf economies, where 45% of the world oil, 20-25% of the world gas comes from, extraordinary set of financial stability. Even if taking into account oil price is $60, the IMF dictums reveals 1.438 trillion is the GDP, aggregate terms of 6 states put together. They should be in a position to generate not less than 40 billion, that is 2.8% as the current account surplus. The aggregate growth again, for 6 states put together, not less than 4 to 4.5%. And within the GCC, Qatar is a telling story. Extraordinary vision and execution to professional respects today, whether it is politics or economics or social progression, Qatar is a telling story. Qatar economic and financial stability, if you look at it, the statistics are glaring. The GDP of the country, if I say, the 197 billion. If you look at the bigger picture, 6 states put together, 1.438 trillion. Qatar is the outstanding performer for years together. Over 7.3% is the aggregate growth which we foresee for this year. And again, the current account surplus is not less than 20 billion, which is not less than 7 to 8%. And again, inflation is under control. The country is operating with 40 billion investable surplus. Over 220 billion is the investable surplus, so what you call sovereign funds. Extraordinary set of governance, political progression, whether Darfur or Lebanon, Syria or United Nations governance, Qatar played a very outstanding role. Qatar Vision 2030 has been well outlined to generate long-term and sustainable performance. In terms of overall social progression, again, borrowing money 15 years before, investing in education and industrial expansion was the reason behind this extraordinary governance. Today, world-class education, Cornell, Texas A&M, Virginia Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, Georgetown, name it. They realized building a knowledge society is paramount. Extraordinary vision convergence, whether it's political or economics or social, has made this country as a distinct performer. If you look at underlying economics as an opportunity, huge growth, next 5 to 7 years, as the ambassador has mentioned, we have extraordinary opportunity for us to converge between Africa and Qatar and the Gulf states. That is precisely the purpose why I'm standing here. In economic terms, the aggregate growth for the next 5 years is not less than 7%. The country will run and continue to run in current account surplus. There is a possibility of fiscal deficit in the second or third year. But if you look at the underlying statistics, the construction activities is going to grow not less than 14 to 15%. FIFA 2022 is a honest bid. There's no doubt about it. An extraordinary set of vision to achieve in the Middle East was a concerted effort by His Highness. And whatever the interpretations the rest of the world is going through will be fair and clear over the period of time. We will not speculate on this. But what opportunity, underlying opportunity we have is to be referenced. Construction activities, as I said, is not less than 14 to 15%. Manufacturing is slowing down. Qatar today is the second largest exporter of LNG. And 77 million metric ton, there was a declaration of moratorium. Now it's going to grow between 3 to 4%. Again, when it comes to service sector, not less than 11 to 12%. And investable surplus in multiple markets, multiple sectors is a diversification as a structured solution is going to make sure the GDP component is predominantly in the next 5 years converged towards non-hydrocarbon. That is a committed vision. Again, this is going to revitalize the overall financial stability. In terms of overall economic opportunity between the two blocks, Gulf states and South Africa, if you look at it, everyone knows Ambassador was spelling out the opportunity as the first Arab bank to come in. The reason why we have picked up South Africa is to recognize South Africa as a gateway for Africa. Apart from the huge governance in terms of financial stability, world-class regulators are South African Reserve Bank. There's no question about it. We recognize this. You come to a place which is credible. That's the committed vision the South African Reserve Bank has got. Extraordinary sort of, regulatory alignment. If you look at it, nowhere in the world you have total compliance with Basel III. I was talking to the regulator yesterday. 15% capital adequacy is the combined aggregate terms. If you look at the rest of the balance sheet components, it's clear. This is one of the extremely well-regulated regime. That's a part. If you look at the opportunities in real terms, the bilateral trade between the Gulf and South Africa is over 12 billion. Predominantly, it is export of LNG, oil or gas or petrochemicals from the Gulf, over 9 billion. 3 billion is the import for the Gulf states. That's on minerals or agricultural products or plant and machinery, etc., etc. That's a very ordinary accumulations. If you extrapolate in substance, it's a huge opportunity in substance. If it, not only on account of the urban development or FIFA World Cup, which is in prospects, that's of course, we have to learn from South Africa. And 10 years before, when we hosted the Asian Games, Khalifa Stadium was built in by Murray Roberts. And we have excellent opportunity in terms of modernization in the entire Gulf. 2022 is an opportunity in Dubai. In prospects, if you look at the urban development, the Gulf states, this fiscal year, they outlined over 307 billion as a government expenditure. And these are airport, seaport, road, rail, stadiums, educational institutions, healthcare institutions. That's where South African contracting companies can play a role. In addition, it's a beautiful country, South Africa. I'm impressed with whatever I've seen, little. And I know the futuristic opportunity which we can foresee by bringing the tourism together. I've got Qatar Airways chief here. extraordinary opportunities in terms of agriculture again. The Gulf states need food security. And they need partners to have long-term sustainable crops. And that can come from South Africa. The list can go on. That is a committed reasoning why we see that this logical fitment has to come. Africa is a growing continent, and South Africa is a model governance. Leave alone the current set of challenges South Africa is going through. The economic momentum still is measurable, and governance is respectable. And what we need to articulate is to disseminate knowledge and bring in the value system together to promote the bilateral advantage in terms of trade, banking, finance, and again, investments. The Gulf states is hosting over 2.2 trillion sovereign funds out of 6.7 trillion globally sovereign fund management. 1/3 belongs to the Gulf state. As I mentioned, the Gulf states has got extraordinary set of current accounts accumulation as surplus. The investable surplus, fiscal surplus has been accumulated over the years, is packaged in the form of the sovereign funds, invested in multiple markets and multiple sectors. These investments are required for South Africa. We will be the professional intermediary to showcase the opportunities, whether it is Qatar Investment Authorities or Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. We are here to see the opportunities. Credibly, we will take the deals across and showcase to investment authorities. That's our principal point number one. And again, promoting the bilateral trade is a bigger opportunity. We will bring the Chamber of Commerce converging to professional respects, disseminate sector-wise, or promoting the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. We have to see the opportunities and see contractors and subcontractors or other small and medium-sized entrepreneurs are transported across to the Gulf states. That's an opportunity. These are some of the business model we have in terms of overall substance. The rest are all details. We will work together with you. We will make sure we bring these two blocks together. We will make sure we will promote the bilateral trade. We will make sure we promote the bilateral banking and investments. That is the very purpose of our mission. It's just a beginning. Our long-term intention is to scale it up as a full-scale operations, converge with the overall economic stream. With this, I welcome you all, and I thank the Qatari ambassador to South Africa. He's an excellent friend of mine and also a wonderful ambassador. We will promote with the additional opportunities we have to disseminate more and more to see how we can converge in terms of overall substance and substantive compliance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention. Any questions? Somebody asked me today, is financial market is a gambling ground? I genuinely believe so. Let me answer that question. And they also asked me one question, is the regulators are paranoid about the systemic failure. Are they re-regulating too much? These two questions I'll start and I'll answering to you, then I'll take a few questions from you as well. Is financial market is a gambling ground? Well, it's partly true, because if you start weakening the currency, if the asset price inflation is the name of the game, sustainability is not visible, as I mentioned. As I also mentioned, currency war has created trade war. If currency is administered, is no more the barometer of an economy. The financial markets, if you look at it, highly volatile on account of multiple factors. Currency is completely administered world over now. So the true character depiction of the intrinsic value of the economy is not visible. So whether it's currency market, commodity market, or bond market, or property market, you have a deflection in real order. For example, if you think the oil price is a deflection of demand and supply, no. It's not only demand and supply. There's nothing which supports the oil price regression as we see today. The reality is there is excess supply, marginally. Shale gas has been a major invention that is really improving the supply chain. At the same time, In terms of overall quantity, it is not material for us to speculate even. The break-even cost for hydraulic fracturing is different. It's way above $60. And if you look at the changing dynamics, what has changed in the last 1 year is the currency, from 75 to 95 today. If dollar is weak, what you do is to go for hedging the risk by buying commodity futures. And again, if dollar is strong, nobody's catching the falling knife. And that's what the reflection you're seeing today. There's no oil futures, there's no commodity futures. That is factored into the overall pricing mechanics. That's one example. Stock market, you know it. The quantitative easing has really triggered, including the United States, is all overvalued. Asset price inflation, whether it's property or stocks, is unrealistic. It remains to be seen when the accommodative monetary policy in global terms, if it stops, what happens to the deflation? What impact it's going to have on the overall capital market? What sort of reorganization is going to take place in terms of sustainable market factor? We have to realize this. The second question is on the is over-regulation is happening. Look at the changing dynamics. The regulators today, a light switch to regulation has failed. There's no question about it. The auditors have failed, rating agencies have failed, regulators have failed. Financial engineering was overdone. That was a result of this crisis. If you look at the bigger picture, the game change is to protect the consumers. Apart from capital contribution to establish consumer confidence in the public financial institution, whether you run a private institution, private bank or a local bank, it is public, it is global. Regulators are now partners, friend and partners, to make sure they are integral part of the measurement mechanism. Unless they are with you to recognize the systemic changes, they can't regulate. That's why re-regulation is inevitable. Okay, whether credit card companies or investment banks business model, there's a huge reorganization in the last 6 years. It's not over-regulations. To promote sustainability, we're all driving towards, whether regulators or politicians. The convergence will come if you recognize regulators are recognizing the changing dynamics and they are with you to redefine the business model to promote sustainability.